Hey friends, it's NoVanityBran from 33AD here, and today I want to explore Foxhole on the Steam Deck and discuss the quality of the experience. So, full disclosure, Foxhole has been one of my favorite games for a while now, and I've clocked in about 1,200 hours at this point, and I know there's 100% going to be someone in the comments saying, those are rookie numbers. I don't care. Anyway, if you found this video because you're a Steam Deck user and you don't have a single clue what Foxhole is, I go more into about what Foxhole is in a previous video that I created. It's titled Why You Should Play Foxhole in 2024. It's up on the screen if you want to learn more. This video is all about trying Foxhole on the Steam Deck specifically and discussing the experience, including some of the barriers to entry that players might experience. And I'm going to rate the game based on the controls, performance, graphics, and the user experience. The first thing that I want to say about playing Foxhole on Steam Deck is that the game is 100% playable on Steam Deck, but because it's not designed specifically for the Steam Deck, you're going to have to spend a little bit of time adjusting the controls. Luckily, there are some users out there that have already created some controller layouts for Foxhole, but I found some of these control layouts to be lacking in certain ways, and no matter which layout I downloaded, I had to spend a little bit of time adjusting the controls to my liking. Currently, the most downloaded community layout for Foxhole is created by Blood Red Rage, and it's titled Blood Red Rage's Elite Foxhole Setup 1.0. Even with this control setup, I found a couple of things that were missing. This could very well just be something I overlooked, so take this with a grain of salt. However, I couldn't find a way to switch seats in a vehicle with this setup, so I ended up having to go in and adjust the controls to add this in. And I also found it highly annoying that I had to hold down certain buttons in order to keep a menu on the screen. For example, if I press the right button on the left trackpad, it'll open my inventory. However, if I release the button, it automatically closes the inventory, and I didn't like that whatsoever, so I had to go into the settings to change this because the current setup just didn't feel very convenient. However, once you spend some time perfecting the controls, the experience honestly isn't all that bad. Just about everything you need to be able to do in Foxhole can be set up on the Steam Deck controller somehow. Overall, I'd have to give the controls a 5 out of 10, just because of the amount of time I had to spend adjusting the controls to my liking. Alright, next up, let's talk about the graphics and performance. I'm not going to pretend to be a performance guru here. However, in my experience, you're probably going to have to play Foxhole with all low settings on Steam Deck in order to achieve a stable 30 FPS. With all settings set to low, you can even achieve 60 FPS at times. However, this will occasionally dip into the 40s, particularly when zoomed out and while driving. At times, you may even experience small stutters while driving past a large bunker base or facility. If you're willing to sacrifice some performance, you may even be able to adjust a few settings to medium, but anything higher than that is going to have a significant impact on performance. It's my personal preference to play with resolution on maximum, but adjusting the resolution scale to about half and with all of my settings on low. No matter what though, stuttering was rare enough that it didn't impact my overall experience with the game. During heavy combat in open areas, my frame rate was surprisingly stable even with a lot of players running around. In the end though, with all low settings on maximum resolution, the game honestly doesn't look that bad. I may be setting the bar pretty low here, but you're able to make important distinctions even with resolution scale set to half. You can clearly tell where enemies are, what weapons they're carrying. You're able to see grenades flying in your direction and tell what type of grenades they are. The only difficulty I had was telling slight differences in color. As always, battery life is going to vary based on your graphics settings and your frame rate settings on the Steam Deck itself. However, during my play sessions, I've been able to play Foxhole for up to 2 hours while playing on low settings with max frame rate set to 30 FPS. To sum things up, don't expect a stable 60 FPS, but performance is pretty good for a game with so many entities on the screen. For performance, I would give the game a 7 out of 10 and an 8 out of 10 for graphics. Okay, and finally, the moment that Foxhole players have been waiting for. Let's talk about how well you can play the game on Steam Deck while doing a variety of different things. First off, logistics works pretty well on Steam Deck. In fact, ironically, I find it to be a more relaxing and enjoyable experience than playing on PC while doing logistics. Farming salvage or components works perfectly fine, operating a crane is smooth, and the UI on refineries, factories, and seaports works with almost no issues. The only minor issue I ran into is that because of the size of the UI, you might have a little bit of difficulty when clicking on certain drop-down menus, but with some practice this will become a non-issue. As for infantry combat, you might have a little bit of trouble performing actions that require quick thinking. Switching weapons can be a little bit clunky even with the best control setup, so making split-second decisions is a little difficult. Aiming a rifle isn't as bad as you would think with a trackpad either. While it's not as fluid and accurate as aiming with a mouse, it's definitely passable. I was able to get a few kills while aiming with a trackpad on the Steam Deck, so it's definitely possible to play as infantry. However, it definitely wouldn't be my primary choice for playing as infantry, but with some additional practice, playing infantry might be an okay experience. The last thing that I tried during my initial testing was tanking. My friend Seal offered to drive an outlaw tank while I operated the front cannon. The experience went pretty well overall, but it definitely had a few minor hitches, especially the inability to switch to specific seats using the Steam Deck controls, and switching between turrets and the commander seat during combat. However, it did work well enough for me to confidently say that this may be the best combat experience that I had on the Steam Deck so far. During this experience, we took our tank to Endless Shore, which was being invaded by colonial tanks, infantry, and even a destroyer. We were able to fire our cannon at the destroyer from the shore as it was retreating from an angle that it couldn't fire back, which was a pretty interesting experience. And then we killed a couple border bases to stop the colonials from invading Iron Junction. After that, we went to help with countering the invasion of Enduring Wake, where we got into a battle with 2 colonial tanks. And unfortunately, we didn't win this battle, and it was the end of the line for our tank. But honestly, aiming the turret of the tank wasn't very difficult at all. It was a pretty fun experience, and I definitely prefer it over playing infantry on the Steam Deck. Overall, I'd have to rate the user experience of Foxhole on the Steam Deck a 7 out of 10. You're going to have much more difficulty performing certain tasks on the Steam Deck than you would on PC, especially because of the smaller UI combined with the use of the trackpad, but I definitely wouldn't say it was a bad experience. The thing with Foxhole on the Steam Deck for the average user is going to be that you have to practice, and maybe it's just me, maybe I just need more practice using Steam Deck controls in general, but I digress. So to wrap things up, I think Foxhole was a pretty passable experience on the Steam Deck, and I'd have to rate it a 6.8 out of 10. It definitely wouldn't be my personal first choice of a platform to play Foxhole on due to the difficulty adapting to the controls, but for users without a standard PC that are interested in playing, you can have a good experience. However, Foxhole on the Steam Deck is not really a plug-and-play experience. Due to the fact that it's not really designed for the platform, you're going to have to put in some legwork tuning the controls while you play. Graphically, the game looks pretty good on low to medium settings, and it performs surprisingly well. User experience may vary, certain tasks in the game are more functional than others, but there's nothing that I encountered that does not function on the Steam Deck at all. If you're someone who's interested in playing Foxhole but doesn't have a standard PC, I would definitely recommend trying it out on the Steam Deck. But if you're just a general Steam Deck user who's just browsing for a fun game to play on Steam Deck, I would probably hold off on buying Foxhole. Or try it for a couple of hours, and if you don't like it, just refund it. But that's going to wrap it up for this video. Thank you to everyone who watched this video as always, and I will see you next time.